Thank you all for tuning in. I'm Selena Marche, and this is You Plus Happy. Each week, I bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on their own terms with a dose of laughter. Remember to subscribe. It's Nats in here today, y'all. Fruit flies. Remember to subscribe to the You Plus Happy podcast on YouTube to stay up to date on new episodes. You can also follow the show on Instagram at You Plus Happy. This week, we talked to Jashan Kaleka, a machine learning engineer, aka AI engineer, which I just learned. And he's also a comedian. He does improv, poetry, and screenwriting. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
I'm glad to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good as well. Yeah, that was pretty good introduction because I always have a hard time introducing people on the fly, especially when people are like, when you're at an event, people are like, hey, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hold on, I have to like give the whole spiel. So
Yes, I have it written down, so that's why it's a little easy. Excuse me. Today there are gnats in the studio, fruit flies. So if I'm doing this the whole show, sorry. This is just we make it work. Anyways, I'm excited to talk to you about everything that you do because it's so like from one end to the other.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you get started?
Well, so I moved to the States about 5 years ago.
Okay.
I moved here for my master's right after my bachelor's, which was again in computer science.
Yeah.
And one thing I always had in mind was like, I don't want to be like just be part of like a community. A lot of like immigrants, when they come, they just stick to their own group.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes people feel that they don't have a space for themselves, right? Like you'll see like Indians just sticking in a group.
Yeah.
Because they don't feel like they have a place for themselves out in the world. So I was like, no, I want to like try things. So during my degree, I tried out storytelling. So I started with story slams, and I was like, yeah, I really enjoyed the stage telling my story.
Before or after you got your degree in tech?
No, during my degree.
During.
During my
Okay.
master's.
Okay.
And I was like, I enjoyed the stage, but there wasn't enough like feedback. People listen to your story and they're like, yeah, you did good.
Yeah.
Then I transitioned to poetry. Again, still not as much feedback. People are like this. And that's when I like was like, oh, I enjoy the stage. I need more like feedback, more interaction. That's when I got into comedy. So I've been doing that for about 3-4 years now. And yeah, I'm a person who really wants to express like what I have inside me. So I'm any medium I can find, I like go for it. That's how like screenwriting came about as well.
Where'd you move from?
I moved from India, so I'm from a state in the north called Punjab.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you move to in the States?
So I moved to Dallas, Texas. That's where I went to school for 2 years. I graduated during the pandemic, found a job in Atlanta, and that's how I.
Okay. How was that transition?
From India to here?
Yeah.
I think something I really wanted to move for was to be more independent. I moved here when I was 20, 21. So I just wanted to experience life outside, like my parents, my social circle back in India. So yeah, I enjoyed the transition. Again, it was like independence to the fullest. Like I was able to pursue my degree, get a job, and do everything outside.
Yeah. So was nothing about it was difficult and meeting new people and all that?
I get this question asked a lot, like as an immigrant, was it difficult? Because people have this perception, and I had it myself because I've heard from my parents or the people who had moved, like how immigrant life is so hard.
Yeah.
But
you didn't experience
no, because I think the belief is that, oh, like it's gonna be hard, like you'll face like problems fitting in, you'll experience maybe racism. But thankfully I didn't experience, like I fit right in, like I've never felt out of place. And coming back to my point, I always wanted to be part of everything that exists. So yeah, no.
Yeah. You went into it with a different kind of mindset. You didn't go into it thinking it would be hard.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. I was asking too because I moved across country and that was just across country from the East Coast to the West Coast, and it was it was very difficult. So that's where I was coming from with that question. And I love that it doesn't have to be hard to make these huge changes
Uh-huh.
in your life. Um, so how did you get into? Okay, y'all, I'm really excited to talk about machine learning
Mhm.
engineering, which is AI engineer. What
Uh-huh.
is that, and how did you get into it?
So, machine learning pretty much is the field where AI comes out of.
Wait, say it again.
Machine learning is the field that AI comes out of, in
Okay.
the sense like it's, you know, how engineering is the major, like physics is the field that engineering comes out of,
Okay.
and then mechanical computer engineering is field that comes out of like engineering as a whole.
Yeah.
So machine learning is a field where you learn how to like program machines to get a good understanding of the world. Like you teach the machine how to understand, let's say, a game like chess,
Hmm.
understand how to have a conversation. So you're pretty much teaching a machine how to do human stuff.
Okay.
And when that like compiles together, that's what you call AI, artificial intelligence.
And how'd you get into it?
Again, like curiosity, I feel like growing up, I was like really passionate about like computers. Like I was blown away by like how computers are able to like replicate things like with gaming, how they are actually able to replicate real world. Also how you can like talk back and forth to like a machine, like a system. And at the very start of it, I read about a concept called the Turing test. I know it's
Okay.
a bit technical, but it's pretty simple.
Okay.
The Turing test is you put two humans. One is an expert in like a domain, like say one guy is has all the knowledge about screenwriting, and on the other side you put a computer, and both are behind a curtain, and then you bring in a person who asks questions that, hey, like give me the format of screenwriting, give me like what's a three act structure, like it asks like random questions. The day that person who is questioning is not able to differentiate between the expert and the computer,
Hmm.
that's the day you say the Turing test has been passed.
Yeah. I have to ask, because I know people listening are probably thinking this too. What's going to happen to the humans?
I think the popular opinion in like the industry experts is that humans will be able to work on whatever they want instead of having to pursue a 9 to 5 to make money. They'll be able to do whatever they want. So you have noticed that in the last like 5-10 years, people are doing podcasting,
Yeah.
influencers, people are streaming, they're literally reacting on content and they're making a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
If you were to tell someone the same thing probably like 10 years ago, that anyone can do that,
Hmm.
like people will like, no, like that's not possible.
Yeah.
It's happened in the last 5 years, like streaming, like especially post pandemic. So what I'm getting at is people obviously will lose jobs,
Right.
but they lose the jobs that they anyhow didn't want to do, in a
Yeah.
way. Like nobody wants to be be a person who just does like manual entries, like
Like,
looks at paper and just like
like data
does,
entry.
yeah, data entry, accounting, uh, any of the mundane jobs, work in like factories. Like people don't want to do that like at their core if it isn't survival. So in the next like 10 years, again it's a bold statement, but you'll only do a job as a hobby. Like if you
Hmm.
want to, you don't have to work. So that's what's going to happen to humans.
What are people going to do for money?
Again, creative pursuits, right? Like,
Okay, what if someone isn't creative? What are they going to do? I know you didn't come here for this.
no, it's that's fair. I think again, you don't have to be creative in the sense like internet is the biggest example. Like people are making money just traveling around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think so. They're essentially creative, right? They're just like traveling around the world, exploring.
Yeah.
So in short, you'll be able to do whatever you want, even if you want to just. Again, streaming is a big example. Streaming only got popular 3 years ago,
Okay.
and what it's at the core of it is all people are doing is watching videos on the internet and reacting to
Hmm.
it. TikTok is the same way. Like you don't have to be creative, right? Like if you
Right.
just want to watch movies, all you're doing is streaming, reacting to it, and watching movie and making money out of
What do you think? What if somebody doesn't want to be online? Like, you know how some people are still private?
Uh-huh.
So what would those folks be able to do?
So something that again the industry leaders are working on is a concept called universal basic income,
Okay.
UBI, where everyone gets a shared equal income, because once AI takes your jobs, AI, like the companies that are running that AI are still going to make revenue, right? For example, I don't know if you saw this, but Chick-fil-A has now these robots that are delivering your food, right?
No, I did not see.
Yeah, but like there are these like robots, like especially around like Buckhead area where they're delivering food.
Mm-hmm.
So the company Chick-fil-A itself is still charging you the delivery cost. It's still making the money even though machine is doing the whole task.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen is all these companies that are still making money through AI, that money is going to be universally distributed.
Is
When
that
like all these chat GPTs, they're still going to make money, right?
yeah?
So
Is
they're
that
going to,
really gonna happen?
I think so. It's a combination of AI and crypto existing in this world that it's going to be possible. So
You think is money gonna go away?
I don't think so money's going to go away, because again, US is at a level where everything is like developed enough. The world has to still has a lot of catching up to do, like other countries. So I don't think so money is going to go away, but yeah, like there'll be a concept of universal basic income where everyone gets a fixed income.
What do you think? All right, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah,
What do you think that'll be? Will everyone get the same amount?
that is the goal. Yes.
Really? So
Mm.
it won't. Okay. So it wouldn't be based on like, oh, this couple has 6 kids, and then someone single
Uh-huh.
by themselves. They wouldn't get the same amount, or would they?
Well, again, this is something that is under works right now, but I'm guessing, yeah, that's a tricky like area. Like if someone has like 6 kids, like how do you maybe the kids will have the equal share as well. I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's what's going to happen, because we are in a pretty like quick trajectory right now where yeah, a lot of jobs can be replaced by AI right now.
What about like teachers, athletes, um, the construction workers?
Again, when I do believe that most of the jobs will be replaced. uh, some will be replaced quicker than others. For
Yeah.
example, I read about there's a 16-year-old kid who like started an AI startup
Uh-huh.
where it helps you the AI helps to help you prepare for SATs at your own pace, because his point was like tutors are expensive, they cost like 100 bucks an hour,
Yeah.
and it's not tailored that they teach the same curriculum. So instead there's this AI that has like been trained on all the SAT like exams, all the books, and now it teaches the kid at its own pace.
Right.
So something like that, yeah, it'll replace the tutors.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something like construction workers, yeah, you'll require like robots. So you won't replace them in a sense, like you'll replace you won't totally replace them, but you'll replace them where a construction site, instead of having 100 construction workers, will have like 20, and
Mm.
the work of the other 80 will be done by robots. That's what's happening in manufacturing. And yeah.
This is fascinating, and I think I wanted us to talk. Well, I didn't know where the conversation would go because you are such a wealth of knowledge, and I mean that. And so I just want to like pick your brain about tech all day because it's not if someone who is outside of this world reading about it. I'm gonna be honest. Well, I can speak for me. It's boring. It's not fun. But if
Uh-huh.
I get to talk to someone who knows about it, I am like so intrigued, and I can ask. If you read an article, you can't ask it questions, right? I can ask you questions. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like I can just in real time, and from someone who's because I think there's a lot of fear around this subject, right?
Uh-huh.
From the average person, and it sounds like your perspective, just like making a huge move, is optimistic. And before I keep going, really quickly, if we get to this universal, what is it called? Universal income,
Universal basic income,
basic income.
UBI.
What if someone doesn't want to carry their weight? What hap- they you want? What if someone's like, I don't want to do anything? They would still get money. And then
Yeah.
someone's like, I still want to work hard. I like working hard. I like
Uh-huh.
having a purpose. you have a lot going on, so I feel like you're the same type of person who
Mhm.
needs something to do and like likes to have a goal in mind, and then it seems like, I don't want to speak for you, like you set goals as you like, you might
Mhm.
check off one and go to the next one, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of people that you are, but some people aren't like that. So they're gonna get the same income. Person A who doesn't need goals, and then you who's like doing a whole bunch of things for the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that like extra income will stop. Like if I'm willing to work harder, like I can earn more. It's not that there'll be a cap on my income.
Okay.
So it's just that the basic, like everyone will get a basic income for survival. It's not like when AI takes over the jobs, like people are just left with nothing. Like
Uh huh.
because what's funny is there's a lot of fear in people because they are like you're gonna lose your jobs, but the people who are developing this technology, they do have humanity at its core. Like the developers are not like fuck these people,
Right.
like I don't want to, I just want to take their jobs. Even the industry I work in transportation, right? The AI algorithms that we are developing, they help people in the trucking industry. How it used to work is like someone would call someone like, hey, like, do you have 10 trucks to carry this load from here to here? Now it's all AI because when you go to Amazon and you like order something, it's like it tells you like, hey, it'll be there next day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the point I'm coming is like, yeah, the jobs are going away, but the people who are making this technology is also have a better interest on.
Yeah. I think it's cool to think about it like, there's different what am I saying? There's different frames of mind,
Uh-huh.
right? And like looking at the world in different ways.
Mhm.
So it seems like what you're saying, because from an outsider looking in, it looks like, well, some conversations I've had, like greed from big corporations, like
Mhm.
uh, you don't have to pay these robots. I know there's costs with it, but it's less liabilities and less money than having an employee, and so it feels like, there feels like there's some greed in it, and like I said, the fear. But from someone who's inside of it, they're saying, you're saying, well, no, it's more about making things efficient
Mhm.
and reliable. It sounds like, is that
Yeah,
right?
because that's how you grow, right? Like if everyone was to have the same job when they were an adult to when they retire, right? They're not really growing personal at a personal level, and as a result of that, the world is not moving forward. Like
Mm,
one of my favorite examples is you know how there's a fear that self-driving cars will like get rid of like Uber drivers and all these drivers.
right.
There used to be every elevator in a skyscraper used to have a driver in them,
Mm-hmm.
and when the companies came up with like automatic elevators, there was a week-long strike in New York where
Mm-hmm.
the elevator drivers were like, hey, like
Yeah.
we're gonna lose our jobs, what's gonna happen? And yeah, like there was a pretty justified strike, but if every elevator to date had a driver, like how imagine how inconvenient it would be for us.
Right.
Nobody even thinks for a second that nowadays you just like click a button and elevator works, whereas there
Mm-hmm.
used to be a driver now.
Yeah.
But they had to get rid of those to make room for more elevators and like just the tech to like proceed further.
And more people.
Yeah,
More.
like if I'm paying let's say 30-40 bucks for an Uber, and it's one, if driverless cars come in,
Yeah.
you'll have more Ubers circulating around,
Mm-hmm.
the cost will go down. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you have to make room for technology to grow.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking about that. Even with phones, you see movies, and I've heard even my mom, like, you had to call the operator, and the operator
mhm,
would get you to the whatever, and there were no phones in your hand. But anyways, I think that's an important point of just
uh-huh,
some jobs, as you evolve, go away. I mean, the longer you live, are just naturally going to go away.
uh-huh,
And when I bought my car, this is the last thing I'll say about it. The salesperson who sold me my car, he was an older man, and I hadn't had a car, I hadn't bought a new car in like 10 years, and you used to sign the paper, but
mhm.
this time you sign the desk, like it's all
Yeah.
electronic. And I was like, he was like, you just got to get with all the new stuff because you'll get left behind. And I
Mhm,
really like that mindset, because whether you like it or not, it's bigger than you. and you need for me, I think it's important to learn as much as you can as a, I don't want to
Mhm.
say civilian, but as a normal person out in the world who doesn't know a lot about it, but learn how to use it and work with it, because it's not going to go away. And I think it's just going to get more it's going to move faster and faster. What do you think?
I think it's again about perspective in the sense like I'm pretty sure you have heard this opinion that some percentage of people are unhappy in their job, right? There are all
Mm-hmm.
these statistics out in the world
Right, right.
that hey, like 60-70% of the people are not happy with what their current jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So on the contrary side, those are the same people who are unhappy are fearing that they'll lose their job.
Yeah,
So if the job goes away that you didn't like in the first place, it's going to make room for a job that you might like.
yeah.
So and uh, same is the perspective of when people are like, oh, these social media algorithms are getting so good that
Mm-hmm.
you only get content that you want to watch.
Yeah.
It's about perspective, because I feel like that's a good thing, that if the algorithm is so good that it only shows things that you want to watch, that's
Mm-hmm.
good, because it's not showing you the things you don't want to watch.
Yeah.
So
I think that's when I'm taking notes. So I remember what to ask. But that's, to your point. Knowledge is power, right?
uh-huh,
Like knowledge is power. That's how we do the show. But because when you don't, you just read headlines or you just hear hearsay and you
uh-huh,
don't do any investigation. Which most of, I mean, let's just be honest. There's so much information. Like we're
mhm.
just scrolling away, and if you're not in it and you don't talk to anyone and you don't know, it does sound scary from the outside looking in. But when you get some information and then learn about, I think the more you know, it's not as scary. Like that's why horror movies, like, they don't show who the killer is, because when you
Yeah.
see it, it's not scary. But
Mhm,
then when you see who, it's but when it's the mystery in things and the
mhm.
unknown that is scary. So I think that's where a lot of the fear is coming from. And I like, to me, it's from someone who doesn't know anything about this stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's like fun. It's very interesting to hear just some more information. I think the more information, the less fear, and it's like, oh, okay, and there's an understanding.
I think I totally agree. The more like people get knowledge about it, the more like yeah, you understand it. That's same for AI. That's same for cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Like from the outside, it is yeah, it is scary, but the reality of it is humans like sometimes don't really like change. Like there's a
Yes.
degree to which you get comfortable, and all these new things require change. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you look like few generations before us, uh, let's say our grandparents, right, they didn't like the change from actual traditional music to electronic music. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
no, we're not going to change that. Our parents didn't like the change from like not having all social media smartphones, but we are fine with it. We are fine
Yeah.
with both social media, electronic music. But what we are resisting right now is like all AI, generative AI, like all these things. But the generation after us will be like, ah, like that's all fine. Like every kid will grow on phones, chat GPTs, like all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So even though we can resist change, it's still gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's a really good point. And there's, just like you said, there's stats on how people don't like their jobs. There's stats on how people don't like change as well,
mhm,
and it's very difficult. And I think one of the things that I saw that I think is helpful is like constantly making yourself do things that are different that you're not used to, so your brain gets used to change, like even
mhm,
going to different grocery stores, because I know I can get stuck, you go the same route to your gym or your
yeah,
job or whatever. Just doing those little things to uproot, I guess not uproot, but just to challenge
mhm,
so you're not on autopilot, right? Just
mhm,
challenge you a little bit to get used to change. Especially, I'm not telling anyone what to do, y'all know, if you listen, I always say that, but I think it is good to challenge yourself in small ways so you can
uh-huh,
get used to the changes. Because if we didn't learn anything in the pandemic, how much change happened then, and like how sudden things can happen. I'm not comparing AI to the pandemic, because those are two different things, but they both require the huge adjustments in
uh-huh.
a different mindset and to your day-to-day life. And so I think just I think it yeah, just challenging yourself so you can be ready for rapid change, because it's not going anywhere, right?
Yeah, and that's what evolution is, right?
Yeah.
Like change. Like if you, again, everyone was doing the same job, everyone was doing the same thing, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
everyone would be stuck, and the world is not going to proceed anywhere. So yeah, I think the reality is like, yeah, everyone has to be ready for this change, and it's coming quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how much you follow the tech industry, but
No.
there's been so many layoffs in the last 2 years.
In tech?
Yeah, in tech,
Okay.
because tech used to be the most like prestigious like field to pursue, right? Everyone was like, hey, if I can get a job in tech, like land
Mm-hmm.
like 6 figures, that was only 2 years ago. Whereas in the last 2 years, the job market has tanked, where companies have laid off tens of thousands of employees because, yeah, they realized that the amount of work and contribution they were doing can easily be replaced and automated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's happened. It started with when Elon bought Twitter, he laid off 80% of the staff.
Yeah.
Amazon laid off like 40%, all these big companies. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the change because, yeah, like,
You just got to be able, what it sounds like, is roll with the punches, no matter what industry you're in. Like, because these people who got laid off, like,
uh-huh.
they still got to figure something else out to do.
But I see it as an opportunity. Like, again, those were the same people who were just doing mundane jobs, right? They were
Mm-hmm.
just happy with their salary, and they
Yeah.
were just like clocking in at 9, clocking out at 5.
Uh-huh.
So in my opinion, what they should figure out is like what they want to pursue. Like, if they want to travel, they like enjoy traveling, they enjoy creating something else, because it's the best time to try things out and still make money, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing how many different ways people are able to make money nowadays. Like, people are doing like drop shipping, crypto, traveling, vlogging, just TikTok, on any random stuff. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at like social media nowadays, there's so many niches that people are able to profit off.
Yeah.
So I think the perspective is like, if you were stuck in a 9 to 5, you didn't want to do it, this is the
Mm-hmm.
best time to try everything, because the same AI that's taken the job from you is also the same AI. If you ask it, hey, how do I start a business, how do I do this, it'll tell you, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's the best time to like figure out what you want to actually do.
Yeah.
So
A quick side note. Well, it's to your point, but it's silly. I put what I asked Chat GPT
uh-huh.
what I should do, like for my career,
Mhm.
and I put something. I saw a prompt on Instagram. I put something from my birth chart in there. And then what career?
Uh-huh.
I promise you, it literally said what I'm doing right now. The podcast, talking to people, acting, like it literally told me exactly what I'm already pursuing. Where I'm so happy.
I mean, just think about it, right? Like, podcast, like, you're able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe like 10, 12 years ago, when we didn't have social media, to be able to do just this, you would need a studio, like an actual
Yeah,
studio.
yeah.
You would need to be partnered with like a big channel, like, I don't know, ABC, CNN,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the only way for you to reach masses. And
Yeah.
you're able to do this in 10 years. 10 years is not a long time. Like, even before pandemic, like, yeah, people, again, you're able to do anything you want, and you have so much help and guidance. Like, when you ask chat gpt
Yeah.
what you can ask now, you would have to go to someone who's already in the space, you would have to
Right.
reach out to them, and they'll probably be annoyed, like, hey, like,
Yeah.
why are you asking me this? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's gotten that much easier. So yeah, everyone should embrace the change and actually chase what they want to do then.
Yeah. That is a beautiful thing and perspective. It's just
Mhm.
getting people well, I can't control anyone, but I just hope people aren't like being stubborn. You know how you like someone already made their mind up and it doesn't matter what you say, they're not gonna change their mind.
Again, the reality is that the you can be stubborn as much as you want, but the world is going to change, right? Like, it's going to move on, in the sense, yeah, like, you can say that I don't want like driverless cars. You can decide not to have it, but the world will change. Like, an
Mm-hmm.
example is like, where I come from, everyone drives a stick shift. Here, everyone, the new generation drives automatic,
Right.
right? You can be like attached to it, like, hey, like, I love how the car feels, whatever, but the whole world is just going to move forward. So there's no point in being stubborn. uh, yeah,
Yeah.
because, again, what blows my mind is like, all these things like chat gpt, all these ais,
Mm-hmm.
they're so powerful, and they're free, and they're available to everyone.
Right.
It's not that it's a top secret facility in like area 51 or something. It's
Yeah.
available to everyone. So yeah, leverage it. Like, why not?
Yeah. I love that perspective. And I have to ask, are you happy at your job? Do you like what you do?
Yeah, I think the reason I'm like extremely happy is because I, I'm someone who enjoys like creating and making an actual impact.
Mm-hmm.
So at my current job, I'm able to do that. Like whatever I design and make, it has an actual real impact on the world. Again, it's not something where I'm just like doing labor or like something where I'm just doing it for money.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really lucky in that position, and I'm also just being able to do like comedy and poetry, like all these things. They are just avenues for my expression. So yeah, I'm able to do my job, make an impact there, and then do other things that are also still making impact. So
And support yourself
yeah.
while you're doing entertainment. We'll talk about that. Well, I'm gonna ask you something else about. How did you? Because I know I asked you how you got into machine learning engineering,
Mhm.
but how did you like? How did what got you from just like in school, whatever, to that? Like, how did you know? Did you sit down? And, how did you get there?
So again, what I think it's curiosity, like to like simply answer it. But the reality is, it always blew my mind how like you can give like a minimum amount of instructions to a computer and it learns and it's able to like take action.
Mm-hmm.
Like simple examples like autocorrect, right?
Yeah.
Like we are so used to technology nowadays that we don't even think about it. But yeah, like a simple thing like autocorrect, it had to learn the entire language. It had to figure out like if I'm spelling it incorrectly this way, it's
Yeah.
probably all these options, right?
Yeah.
So computer had to like absorb that knowledge, do that. Self-driving, like it had to literally learn how to like how people drive, how they
Mm-hmm.
follow these lines, this. So it always was my curiosity, like how you can teach a computer to do stuff and it's actually able to do it. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you start getting into like the details of how you teach it, it's pretty complicated. Because if you tell a computer, you give it like 5 pictures and tell if it's a dog or a cat,
Right.
just something simple as that. The way the computer does it itself is it looks at each pixel and sees that if a combination of these pixels appears in this way, it's probably a dog or a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't have reasoning built in, right? If you go
Uh-huh.
at like the granular level how you teach it, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how machine learning and AI started. Like they started with a model learning how to differentiate between a dog and a cat.
Yeah.
So it looks at the pixels, it's like, oh, I see like the pixels in the middle have like a nose, a pixel has like ears. Again, it doesn't know what an ear or nose is, right? But it
Right.
just like looked at pictures and pictures and pictures and pictures to be able to do a basic task as differentiating between a dog and a cat.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it started. Then it learned, it absorbed every picture of every dog, every cat possible in every angle, lighting, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a point where now it can generate it.
Yeah.
Because it learned how like the combination of these pixels on a screen means it's a dog. Now all
Yeah.
it has to do is like light turn on those same pixels to create an image.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how like the whole process happened. It happened even narrower, like from like learn picking up like numbers and
Right.
like. So I was just like curious about it, and I understood like how powerful this technology is. Because we went from just recognizing things to now generating it. Like you can literally ask it to generate any image and it's able to do that because it went through the entire process of
Yes.
learning everything. So
Yes. I ask that too, and if you don't want to answer this, I understand. But I talk about knowing your options a lot on this show, and
mhm.
like, how did you know? Like, what did your parents do? You don't have to answer that, but like, how did you know this was a career and an option for you?
Well, I think something I was really like blessed with was like my parents never like forced me to like do pick a career.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like stereotypically it's like Indians are like you have to be a doctor, an engineer, or like lawyer, whatever the options are. They did give me like freedom to like choose it. So again, like I followed my curiosity. I was always inclined towards computers. Then following that, I'll be really honest. I'll be really honest with something. Even when I was doing my masters, I wasn't like other students who were just chasing like grades. Like I would pick the hardest classes that were in school,
Yeah.
and it would affect my grade. Like my grade would get affected. I didn't get like a 4.0, but I would learn more. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what always led me to my career is curiosity. I like followed it, and I've been lucky enough where I was paid for it as well. And that's what I'll continue to say, like, follow your curiosity, because we live in a time where it's rewarding to follow it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't emphasize on that enough.
Right.
Like, you don't have to be a doctor if you don't want to. You can still do whatever you want. Like, it's nuts. Like, I I've seen so many like creative ways people are making money nowadays just because they're following their interests. That's it.
Two questions. Wait, will there still, real quick, will there still be doctors?
Again, I think there will be, but in the medical field, it's pretty diverse, right? So there's actual like surgeons,
Right.
and then there's just a bunch of staff all they do is they read your like reports, test results, your CT scans. Like, I think those people will go away because AIs will be able to better read those
Right.
scans. Coming back to the dog and cat example, if you feed AI every scan that every doctor took in the entire world, it'll be able to detect like your x-rays, your like CT scans, like every scan. And there have been cases where AI is able to detect cancer early on just looking at the scans than an actual expert, because
Right.
AI is trained on every doctor, every scan ever.
Yeah.
Whereas the person who's doing that scan at your local shop might have only seen 100 reports.
But they won't be able to do surgery.
Well, the my aunt, she's a physician.
Uh-huh.
She's in the medical field, and she said that, yeah, they, again, there is replacement that they'll actually go away, but then there is like help. So instead of like five surgeons doing a surgery, there might be just one doctor and the robot assisting,
Okay.
because they are testing like robo surgeries a lot nowadays, and they are so precise and so like calculated. So yeah, they will replace, and doctors are able to do surgeries remotely, in the sense like you can go to a remote place, you can install a robot, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor is somewhere in a different state, even a different country, and they can just like control the robot and do the surgery.
Y'all, I'm gonna be down a YouTube rabbit hole today once
Because
this
think
is
about
over.
it, like the hardest thing people face nowadays is like, if you go to like a rural place, there's no hospitals around, right?
Uh-huh.
But you can go and fit a robot there, right?
Wow.
And there'll be more. Again, coming back to the same cat and dog example, once a robot learns how to do a surgery, all these are interconnected over the internet, right? So once a robot does a successful surgery in Atlanta, it's going to be able to share and train it with every robot in the entire country.
I got it.
Whereas a doctor will only get experience through like 10 years of experience, maybe through
Yeah.
the school and like internships, all that.
Yeah.
Whereas a robot that starts today, let's say there's 10,000 robots in the entire country, they'll just be able to learn, teach each other. That's how good they'll get. So
Yeah.
yeah, like,
It makes sense. I like that your face lights up talking about this.
yeah,
That's wonderful.
yes.
Um, what you mentioned that there is, I'm going to get to the comedy, but this is, wait, so, but you mentioned that you know so many people who are able to make money like following their curiosity. What's like an example?
Um, One of the examples is I have a family member. They're a couple, and all they love is to travel. They love to travel, hike, mountain bike, just like be in the outdoors, right? They were able to start a business on the side where all their business does is like, if I'm out in like Colorado or Utah and I'm trying to rent a bike,
Yeah.
it gives me an aggregated list of options to for all the shops in my area, and I'm able to compare prices. So they're like hotels.com but for like rental equipment.
Okay.
So no, they're able to travel full time, build a business on the side that's able to pay them.
Yeah.
And then you can look at all the people who do like social media, or
Yeah.
like, I bet you know a lot of people who are social media influencers, and all they do is go and review restaurants. So if someone has a curiosity, they just like enjoy food, trying new places, they're able to do that, but also create content and get paid for it. So
Yeah.
that's
I see. But it sounds like too, like while you're doing the things that you like to do, it's important to keep your wheels spinning and be looking for opportunities because these like they're not just out eating and not thinking about opportunities. or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the family members the couple that you mentioned, going on traveling. A lot of people travel and don't think about anything how to monetize, like to make money in that
Uh-huh.
process, you know. So I think that's like also a shift in your brain of
Mm-hmm.
like, how can I monetize a part of this? I know for me, I wrestle with, and I wonder what you think of, um, trying to monetize everything and like, um, not exploiting, but for a lack of a better word, exploiting everything that you like. It's like, dang, I want a hobby that I don't have to share or do something. You know what I mean? What do you think about
No, I,
that?
I I think I totally understand. It's like the morality aspect where I'm like, if I'm eating, do I still have to take a picture of it?
Right, right.
But again, it's a perspective in the sense like you have to still do those things to then be able to figure out like, is are there better ways to make money,
Mm-hmm.
or like can I do it in a different way? So like you have to go through that process, right, of feeling
Yeah,
guilty and then thinking like, hey, like should I do it in this way, do it better? So what I believe is we live in a time where we can experiment as much as we want,
yeah.
and through that experimentation then land to something that you don't feel guilty about.
Trial and error, and
Yeah,
what
like
feels
if
good
you
to you.
if you feel guilty about like taking picture and posting it on social media and you feel guilty about it, maybe then you arrive to a avenue where like you start recording when you are cooking something. So instead of like being guilty of, hey, look at what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
you shift it to adding value. So instead of just like taking a picture like, hey, look, I'm eating, you add a rating to it. You're like, hey, like I tried this place, give them a shout out,
Yeah.
and this was really good. So you instead of just showing it off, you are adding value to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's changed that perspective to that, because I've noticed this, like I do it anywhere I go, I'll just tag those people,
Yeah.
and I'm giving those people free marketing in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
then they reshare it, and they it shows that actual people come to my spot, they like it. So you're think of it like, yeah, you are creating value in a way as well. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to hire a marketing team, I'm doing free marketing for them in a way.
Yeah. And
So
marketing is not cheap.
yeah, exactly.
So, okay. All right. Well, now we're gonna shift, guys, because also you do. This is how I met you.
Uh-huh.
Do a lot of creative things
Hmm.
as well. I didn't know you, as mentioned in the bio, you do poetry. I didn't know that. But you do comedy, you do
Hmm.
improv, and speaking of screenwriting, you won't need to do screenwriting because AI will do your screenwriting,
Yeah,
or no.
I think it's I think AI will do screenwriting, but it just comes back to perspective, in the sense like if you look at like filmmaking, screenwriting, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I explain it? Like people used to do screenwriting on like pen and paper. They
Right.
had to write it, they had to iterate it, they had
Yeah.
to check, they had to hire a editor or like a reviewer to then read if spelling mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
format it. So now your computer corrects your spelling, puts it in a format,
Yeah.
makes suggestions. So it's doing that job for you. So yeah, like AI will do the screenwriting, but then it'll change to where at least AI will be able to fill in some gaps for you. It'll make it easier. And as a screenwriter, it'll make me a better screenwriter, instead in a way that I don't have to go and read last 50 years of scripts to be able to start writing,
Yeah.
right? I don't have to like lock myself somewhere in a hotel, read all these like previous writers. I can just start experimenting and like creating more and more scripts than having to
Yeah.
again sacrifice everything. So
No, I got you. That makes sense. So, how did you get into comedy, and poetry, and storytelling?
well, the simple answer is I just wanted to one get good at the language, in the sense like when I moved here I had an accent,
Mm-hmm.
people were not able to understand what I was speaking. So I would say it's a pro tip. If you're trying to learn a new language, just start getting on stage and doing comedy.
Well, sir,
Like,
that is a huge jump.
yeah, it is, but don't you think it's funny in itself? Like if you're trying to learn Spanish, right, and you go
Mhm.
to a Spanish comedy show, you just get on stage.
But you have to. But most people are scared to get in front of people. You already were doing storytelling in front of folks, right? You said.
Yeah, I was, but again, I started somewhere, right? Like I just had this urge to like express myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like just looking at social media, I feel like everyone wants to express something. You just have to find out what it is,
Yeah.
right? Everyone does want to have a voice, express their opinion on sports, food, whatever your niche is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by default, people already have the expression, like the will to express. Yeah, I mean, look at why people dress up, why people, yeah, they have that. So you just have to pick your medium, and I picked comedy because I wanted to get one, good at the language, and two, I had so many stories and things to share. So that's how I got into
And you thought
comedy.
they were funny?
Yeah, I think so.
So you when
Just because perspective is funny, right? Like you want
yeah.
to hear like w- just like you wanted to hear my experience on being an immigrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
People would want to hear it in a comedic sense as well, because
Right.
that's how the culture shock experience. So
And you weren't nervous at all.
no, I was. I think
Okay.
I was. It did take a long time, because the very first like big show I did, it was probably a crowd of like 500, 600 people.
That was your first show?
Like first comedy show, because it was like a university intercultural program where like different cultures present like different things, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
I auditioned and I was picked as a comedian. And this was my first time performing in front of like a packed like basketball stadium under a spotlight. One, I couldn't like see anyone. Like I got on stage, I couldn't see anyone, the spotlight was so bright.
Okay.
And I did some jokes, I was so rushed, like I bombed so bad. Like I got off stage and I just went home. I didn't like even like see anyone. But it soon put things in perspective that that's the worst that can happen. So now
Mm.
when I perform in front of 100 people, I'm like, oh, like that happened in front of 600 people
Yeah.
and nothing really happened to me. Like it's fine. Like the
How did you cope with that when
yeah,
you got
because
home?
well, yeah, that particular day or that particular week was pretty bad, because you start questioning like, oh, like why did I do that? Should I even do it again? But
I'm sorry I'm laughing so hard.
no,
But we've all, I've done shows in not comedy, but I've done plays in front of people, and it was a shit show. So I think I'm laughing because I was remembering my own experience. I'm not laughing at
no,
you.
no, it's fine.
But so that day, what happened?
Well, again, I when I auditioned, right, I auditioned in front of like 5 people. It
Right.
was fine. It was like a room, like a normal room. Whereas when I walked on stage, it was like a big basketball stadium, that they had a big stage because other people were doing like choreographed dances, like like other stuff that required a big stage. So when I went on, it was my first time being under a spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first time listening to myself on a mic in that bigger space.
Right.
So yeah, the nerves kicked in. I got nervous, and then when I started doing those jokes, they didn't hit, and it was like silence. And again, the saddest thing was I couldn't see the crowd. Right, it's like
Right.
spotlight. So I'm looking at like this white, like oblivion. So
Okay.
yeah, like but I still, in my head, I still like went through my entire like 5 minutes of set. I still did it. But again, it puts you in perspective that, let's say I'm on that stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the basketball stadium. If I like zoom out outside who I am, what's happening is there's people who are there for the entire like 2 hour presentation, right?
Right.
There's people, there's me again. I'm doing my best what I'm doing. But if I zoom out and I'm outside the stadium, outside that room, does it really mean anything in a sense?
Yeah.
Like right, like I'm just like outside the room now. Maybe I'm outside the university now,
Yeah.
right? Is it that like impactful? Not really,
Yeah.
right? Like you get to
Yeah.
zoom out. So that really put things in perspective that yeah, everyone's there for a reason, and it's not like gonna impact it in a major way.
I mean, yeah, sure. That's one way to look at it. But next time I bomb at something, I'm gonna just message you on
Yeah,
Instagram, and you're like, "Oh, it's not a big." Well, that's true. Every time I run into you, I'm worried about something because that's my nature, and you'll say, because a few times, and you're like, "It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
yeah.
It's nothing." So is that how you look at life in general? Like, it's just not a big deal. Nothing's a big deal.
Well, it's not a big deal what others think. It's a big deal like what I want to accomplish.
Right.
Like if I go do a show and it's not up, like internally I know that I didn't put enough effort, like I just like half-assed it,
Uh-huh.
then it's a big deal because yeah, this is what I want to do and I didn't do it. But if it's like I gave my best and I didn't get the reaction out of someone, then it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, because again, it doesn't really matter on what people think because everyone is on their journey
Right.
and they are doing their best. Again, not like getting religious. I'm not religious, but like you have heard this saying, right? Like at the end of the day, it's not gonna matter
Yeah.
like what other thing. It's matter what you think, what you did,
Mm-hmm.
the intention behind it. Because there can be times where you can have the best intention and it's perceived as a negative,
Mm-hmm.
like in a totally wrong way. So yeah, it shouldn't matter then. Like it's not a big deal. Like, but it's a big deal internally, like what you want to do, what's your intention, did you give it
You
enough.
care about letting yourself down. That like you want to make sure
Uh-huh.
that you honor the what you know you can do. Just like you're saying, like if you half-ass something, you know you could have done better. That's when you feel like.
Yeah,
But when people think, how do you ever get embarrassed?
I think again it's that fine balance in the sense like I'll give you an example. I had a friend. I met this guy at like a event, and he was like, hey, like I want to really do comedy, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I just found out that you do comedy. Like, is there a show? Like, can you give me an opportunity? So I was supposed to have a show a month from that date, and I was like, hey, I promised that guy that I'll give you a slot. You come in, you do your show. Unfortunately, the show got cancelled,
Mm-hmm.
and in the back of my head, I was like, oh, like this guy was gonna do his first show ever, and he's not gonna do it. Again, he's a personal external to me. I shouldn't be embarrassed or shouldn't care. But in my head, I was like, oh, like it's a big deal. So I contacted someone. I contacted a big comedy studio in Atlanta, and I
Mm-hmm.
got him a slot that same day that the show was supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So he does that show. He records it, and he shows it to his friends. He also shows his he shows that recording, that clip, to his dad, who passed away like a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But before his dad passed away, he was able to do that show and show it to his dad. So I would have felt embarrassed, like if I made a promise and not delivered on it, because that tiny thing meant so much to that guy,
Yeah.
right? So it's the whole big example. So I'm not saying I don't care about like people, but again, it comes to like who I'm as a person, like care about that more. So I would have been embarrassed if that didn't go through.
Right.
So
So, but it's not like you're walking down the street and you care what kind of shoes
yeah.
they like. Like kind of superficial kind of stuff. You care.
Mhm.
It sounds more like things that are in alignment with your integrity and your values. Have you thought about? Is that something you like consciously think about, like what my values are, how I'm going to live my life?
Uh-huh. I think I do, because this is how I was like raised in the culture I come from. Because one of the culture shocks I got when I moved here was back home, right? Even if I have a friend group who's like 20 people,
Uh-huh.
whenever we go out, just one guy would pay. And in India, especially where I come from, like my faith and my culture, people fight to pay the bill. They're like,
Okay.
I want to pay it because there's like this informal contract in a way that I'll pay today, someone else will pay the next day. Like it's just such an informal culture, and at the end of the day, it comes out to be the same,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
The first thing when I moved here, I was like someone like split the bill, which was still fine, and they like were really peculiar about like I didn't drink or eat it, and it really hit me, like I'm not raised this way because it doesn't matter, like maybe I'll pay today, you'll pay some, like you know how like in the grand scheme of things work out that way.
Right.
So I I always had this value that the way I was raised was to be selfless because yeah, things in the big grand scheme of things
Yeah.
come back to you. Like I'll give you an example in my family. So my uncle and aunt live here
Uh huh.
in Atlanta. Anytime I go out with them, they don't let me pay because it's that cultural thing. Like the elders have to pay,
Uh huh.
even if it's like to eat, to shop, and you'll be like, oh, like they are bearing all that expense. But their kids, who are my cousins, they are like 10 and 14. Anytime I go out and I'm with them,
Yeah.
I don't let them pay.
Right.
So you know how it like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so yeah, the value, that's where values come in because I feel like oftentimes people are really hesitant to ask for help. People are really asked to even help out because there's so many calculations. So I think values really help me like navigate that. And in my own friend circle here, I've made sure to have those values. Like if I go out, I'll pay for it, and next time they'll, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I do think about my values a lot. And
Do you have practices, like daily practices, to keep to
no,
stay in touch with your values? Like, is there a list in your head? Can you like,
uh
or does that make
no,
sense?
it does make sense because I've done a few like those like self-help like seminars, and they
Yeah.
ask you to like write your values. So no, I don't have a list because the reality of the situation is like these values you're constantly learning and like applying.
Hmm.
For example, the example I gave you, right, the guy that had made a promise,
Right.
after that happened and I found out that how much it meant to them, I added this value that if I make a promise, I better keep it because you don't know how much impact it's going to have.
Mm,
So yeah, I added that value. So now anytime I make a promise to someone, I commit to something, I make sure that it might mean more to them than it means to me.
yeah.
So I don't have a list because yeah, they keep changing. And again, I'm not perfect at all. Like even at work, even though I've only been like in the corporate world for like just only 4 years, which is like novice compared to like people who have been in the who I work with who have been in the industry for 20 plus years.
Right.
There's every day that I learn something new, like how to deal with people, how to be polite. So yeah, you can keep growing your values. I don't think so. There's a
Yeah.
definitive list
Like new information comes in and then you reassess. That makes sense.
because I think I have a big belief in life that whatever your shortcomings are, life like teaches you pretty quickly that this is not how you should do it. Like
Yeah.
it happens across the board. Like I was not always good with finances.
Uh huh.
Life will pretty quickly teach you. Like if you're not good, you better take care of it. So yeah, like
How'd you get good with finances?
with time, with time, in the sense like I'm around people who like are in heavy investors in like crypto, who do things with like stock market stuff like that, and those things would never work like with me. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
never like a person who is like good in the stock market and stuff. But what I realized over time is like you have to come up with your own strategy on how you invest.
Mm-hmm.
And my strategy was I set up these like automatic investments that invest a really small amount, like 30-40 bucks
Yeah.
every day. That works really well for me because I don't have the mental burden to like sit down and assess should I invest in Bitcoin, this, that. I just have a diverse like automatic investment every day.
Yeah.
So the way it worked with me was I was investing like 40-50 bucks every day. Within a month, that would amount to like 1 or 2 grand. And I just had saving that I thought would never work. So yeah, experimentation is how you get good at it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Do you ever? Because I mean, I
Be-
know it's. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
there is so much advice on financials like in the world
Yeah.
that doesn't really work for you, so you just have to try things.
That's exactly how. Because I'm obsessed with self help. That's why I started this show.
Uh-huh.
And I've read a bunch of books, and they all give you these different. Some things are consistent, but for the most part, there's a lot of different things coming at you, and that's what, like you said, you have to find out what works for you. That's with everything. You have to
Yeah.
find out what works for you. So it's kind of like trial and error.
Mhm.
Um, do you ever get, because it sounds like, and I know it's not, I don't want to oversimplify things because it's easy to just sit and do that. But do you ever get sad? What do you do? Like, what do you do when you get sad? How do you deal with it?
General like sadness.
Like, if something happens, something did upset. Because it sounds like, I'm asking this because it sounds like you're a very easygoing person. I don't know if that's true,
Uh-huh.
but it sounds like and then you're just kind of like really rational about if something happens. So part of the show is like, how do we how are we successful, how are we happy, but everybody gets down a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do you seem like a very rational person, that's why, how do you deal with things when they don't go, when it's not like, oh, I can't just brush this off, and how do you deal with that?
Well, no, even though I might seem rational, I think I do have like down times because once something happens, right, like once you deal with the situation, you kind of like build a way in your head, like if this happens again, like this is how I'll handle it, like the
Right.
bombing where, like when I was on stage and I pretty much like bombed my entire set, I didn't
Yeah.
do good. So I found a way, like when I got down, I found a way to like deal with it if it happens in the future. So when a new situation comes now, I do have to sit through it, like I do like sit through it.
You just sit through it.
For example, like I recently started like part-time school. I started my second master's. Initially it felt like easy going, like yeah, like I can take it, but it
Hmm.
got to a point where I had to like prioritize things because I got like left behind on a lot of my assignments. So I had to like reassess that situation. I had like a couple of days where I was like shit, like I had to leave everything and just grind on my work. So I do get sad. The way I deal with it is I sit through it. I try to analyze, like if it happens again, what I need to do, what do I need to do then.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have going back to your the bombing on stage? Did you have any mentors or comedian friends to like
Yeah.
what like to think about? Of course, you're going to think about what can you do better next time because of course no one wants to bomb twice. But like, did you reach out to anyone? How did you say?
Yeah, I think something I think a big life lesson that I've had in life is I used to hear all the time, like when you listen to like celebrities and all these people, they're like, oh, like I have mentors in my life, like they are the reason. Any successful person says it. And I could never figure out that how do you get mentors, right?
Right,
Like do you like pay them? Like
right,
like even I think about it, like if someone comes to me like, hey, can you be my mentor, right? How does that work?
right.
The way it works is like something I feel like is you find someone who you look up to in the industry, and you don't have to like ask them like, hey, help me. You just like stay with them, observe them. I feel like 80% of mentorship is just like being around them and like seeing what they did, how they did it, and
Mm-hmm.
then occasionally asking questions. That's what a mentor is. It's not like there's a relationship where we'll meet every
Right,
day. There
right.
are mentors who you pay and do that.
Yeah.
So during my life, I think in my comedy poetry career, I have had people who I look up to, that I would like occasionally hit up for advice and just like see how they are doing things to like
Mm-hmm.
replicate it. So yeah, I've had like a lot of mentors that like I've looked up to and just learned from them, because the way you learn from them is, it's not that you don't make the mistake, you just like you still might make that the same mistake. It's just that you look at their mistake and see like what they did and implement that. For example, I'll give you an example. A lot of time people say that it takes you 10 years to get good at comedy,
Mm-hmm.
for getting paid and getting your own shows. I've been only doing it for 2 years, and I think I get decent enough shows. It's not that I did something special, it's just that the mistakes that people made, I learned from them and it saved me those that time.
Yeah, yeah,
I think I can relate to it with my parents as well. The reason your parents are giving you all this like life advice, or anyone who's like older than you giving you life advice, it's not that you don't do the mistake. They want you to still do the mistake, but if some if it took them 10 years to learn from that mistake, they just want you that it takes you 5 years,
yeah.
so that you save that 5 years of time, right?
Right, right,
You're still
right.
gonna make, like again coming back to financials, right? Like yeah, I was never like good at it. It took me a long time, but I feel like maybe it took me less time compared to someone else who took like 10 years to get financially stable.
Yeah. How did you, because we spoke a little bit about it before, but how did you get um, how did, from engineering into the creative world?
I think I was always obsessed about when I was younger, right? I was obsessed with people like Galileo Galilei. Obviously, he's known for Mona Lisa, but he's
Mm-hmm.
also known for, he pretty much had a lot of modern day inventions that he designed and built pretty much. So like modern day like toilets. He also had like sketches on helicopters, and he has this famous quote that science science is an art and art is a science,
Mm.
right? Because yeah, like science is sort of an art, like to be able to design like a laptop or table, like obviously there's technology, but there's also an art for it, right?
Right.
And same with art, like behind every artistic piece there's still a science, a method to it. So I really admire people like him, people like Elon Musk, who are big time like tech nerds, but they do have that creative artistic touch.
Yeah.
So I really resonate with them because yeah, like you understand that laptop has a functionality, but it's still you wouldn't. The reason you use Apple compared to anything else is because it still has that creative aspect, design aspect to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Else, everything would be plain. The reason there's like all these patterns on this is its utility to sit down, but there is an artistic touch to it.
Yeah.
So I think I always had a understanding of technology, but how it also applies to art and creative side.
That's fascinating to me. Um, how do how do you define success?
I think success, you know, I think success. I'm someone who really looks at the world like objectively.
Uh-huh.
Like there is always like a reason behind like something that's happening, but things like success are not obviously objective, right? It's not like a bank balance or something. It's one of the few things that is subjective. I feel like success is in a way keeping like keeping and completing the promises that you made to yourself. That's what success is. Because I if I say success is like hitting a particular number and I never like really have the intention to do it, I'm never gonna do it, right?
Right.
So from like someone's outside, like other people's perspectives, I might not be successful.
Mm-hmm.
But if I promised myself that I'm going to relocate to a different country and pick up this hobby, and I do it, I keep that promise to myself. That is success to me.
Yeah.
And that's why that same success starts from like the smallest promise that I'm gonna wake up today and do this. And if I'm able to do it, I'll feel like I'm on the top of the world. It could be the tiniest thing, and it could also be a long term promise that in 5 years maybe I want to get married and start a family. That's success to me. So yeah, like keeping your promises is success.
What's your process on making decisions? Because like you do a lot, right? So it's I feel like you have to be. You tell me. I feel like you have to be strategic in your life because you have a lot going on. You have a pretty full plate, and you pursue a lot of things. Like you're pursuing a second master's in engineering.
In project
Oh,
management.
oh, that's right, project
Yeah.
management for this
Hmm.
one. But either way, you're in school for a second master's. You're pursuing comedy, and you have a job.
Hmm.
So, how do you make these decisions to say this is something I'm going to put on my plate?
I think I think that's something I'm still like working on
Mm,
because it's so easy to like get like excited about something and just like get excited and pursue it and not be able to give your 100%.
right.
Because it has happened to me where like I get approached by a bunch of people like, hey, like I'm working on this like exciting idea, a app, a startup. Would you be want to be part of it? And I used to like say yes. So I would like be booked for weeks at end, like doing stuff, and I was still excited about those things. So the way I balance it is like, first of all, I'm still like learning how to do it
Yeah.
because I'm someone who's really big into keeping promises to myself. So if I commit to something and I'm not able to do it, I'm really down about it. I'm like, oh, I should have done it. So I'm really trying to like reprioritize things in my head. Like this means more to me. For example, like I used to be someone when I was pursuing comedy who would do like 2 or 3 shows a day. I would just go to like bars and stuff and just do multiple shows a day because that's how everyone did it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought was the comedy journey. But I had to take a step back because yeah, I was doing like 4 or 5 hours a day, like just wasting on that instead of having my career go anywhere. So I had to like rethink and take a different approach and find a niche. So I do only like tech comedy shows now. So you have to like
Oh,
reprioritize stuff. I think so. You have to really evaluate like I have all this going on. I'm not able to give my 100% like at this place.
yeah.
Maybe I should take a step back because everything gets affected then. Like if I have too much on my plate, I'm not able to deliver 100% on one thing
Mm-hmm.
because I'm taking time away from it and putting somewhere else. That also means that I'm not giving 100% there because I'm doing 100%, like taking time away from something.
Everything suffers.
Because I think it is, again, I'm coming full circle here, but even though it's the best time to do anything and everything, it's also hard to really get good at particular thing. That's also people how people should focus on, because the industry I'm in the startup world, I
Mhm.
literally was at an event where I was working on a project. The founder was there. There were two other guys who were also working on the same project.
Mhm.
So it was five of us like working on a same project, and we were having this conversation. I was saying, I'm working on this project, but I also do this.
Mhm.
The CEO was like, yeah, I'm working on this. But I also do this. All five guys said that they are working on that project and also other things, which meant that not a single one of them was 100% in,
Yeah.
all in. So, which means that, yeah, like if there's no one giving 100% in that particular thing, it's not going to be successful.
Right.
So,
Right.
so even though I like take pride in saying that I do this,
Mhm.
I only focus on particular things at particular time.
Yeah. Okay.
Like right now, I'm not pursuing screenwriting because, yeah, like I'm focusing on other things. So I'm
Yeah.
focusing on my school, my current job, and then I'll do monthly like shows, like big shows, instead of just going to a bar. So I'll
Right.
do bigger shows now.
Someone on the show said that before. Oh my gosh. Are these gnats? They're not in your. Oh my god. Why are they bothering me? I must have sprayed something. Okay. I love this, and but I want to respect our time, so I'll start wrapping us up. But I wanted to ask because there, I want to ask two more questions, but there's so much that you've said today that's helpful. But one of the, before the last, is this okay if I ask two more?
Yeah,
What's your what are your thoughts on who you surround yourself with, who you choose to surround yourself with?
I think I think in life, right, the best advice is the most like like the most like basic one.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, be yourself, or like you are the sum of five people you surround. Like the most basic advice is the most deep one
Yeah.
that it takes the longest to figure out. Like be yourself is the advice that I still like every day clicks me. Like I'm like, yeah, like that's what they mean. So the one that you said, like, I think it's really important on who you surround yourself with, because it really affects the pace at which you are doing things.
Mm.
Like if you surround yourself with people who are like ahead of you, who are like doing things, who are excelling at things, it really motivates you, like, hey, like I want to like do this.
Yeah.
Like there's a place I go to called the Atlanta Blockchain Center. It's a place where people in like crypto or like AI, all those people, engineers or people who are running their startup, come there. I'll just go to that place just for the atmosphere of it, because when
Mm-hmm.
I walk out, I'm so motivated that holy shit, like people are doing this.
Yeah.
I also want to do it. Even when you go to like COA, when you see all these people doing all that stuff, it motivates you. So I think
Yeah.
it's really important to surround yourself with good people, because one, it really gives you confidence to be able to see like what is possible, because everyone has the same hours, but if they are able to do it, they are able to do this,
Mm-hmm.
so can I. Like they are a set example. And secondly, you can also lean on them to understand, like if they made all these mistakes, I can avoid it. So I think it's one of the most important things after knowing yourself, to like surround yourself with the correct people, because that's how you're going to be successful in this world. Because if you can connect with those people, understand them, they are pretty much like your first audience as well, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
when you can go out and gather more people in your community or audience, once you're able to like connect with people around you. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think when they're in the same field too, I wonder what you think. You have people to reach out to for help. Like
mhm,
if I'm working on like even just editing the show or whatever, like I know I could text five people who would be able to help me with a problem if I
mhm,
had that. So that's also like because I feel like you can't do anything alone, and
mhm,
so if you have a support system that can is kind of knows what you're doing, it can help you navigate it. And like you said, like paying attention to what they're doing too, like when the
mhm.
mistakes they make and vice versa. They can see the mistakes I make and get ahead of it. I think, yeah, having a team is really, really important. And you said something that led me to my other question was everybody has the same amount, the same hours in a day.
Mhm.
So what's a day in your life? What does it look like? A day in the life?
So I think my days are pretty simple. I think the first like at least like 3 4 hours. I usually get up at around like 5, and the first 3 4 hours are just to myself. So I go to the gym. I have a dog, so I do probably like 3 4 miles. I just like walk with him. I live at Jashan Park. I make sure to get good food in. So like the first 3 4 hours are just for myself, because if I, again, I'm not too like strict with it, but I need that time to like lay down the rest of my day and
Mm-hmm.
make sure like at least the body's working fine, because if the health goes out of the picture, everything else comes
For sure.
crashing down. And then I'm someone who can't work like super long hours on one thing. I can't like sit down on one thing for like 5 6 7 hours.
Yeah.
So I break my day down into like probably slot of like three hours. So I'll go to like a spot, focus on my work at my company for the 3 hours. Then I'll move spots. I'll have like a lunch break, something. I'll focus on something else for the next 3 hours, which is usually like my school or this another startup I'm helping. Then the evening I'll switch gears to like maybe do a comedy show, attend events, because I found that like my focus on like one particular thing is narrow around like 3 4 hours. Do have to move between, make sure I grab something. So yeah, that's what my day looks like. It's a bunch of 3 hour focus periods on different things.
Mm.
That's a good balance for me, because I feel like I don't get distracted in that amount of time. So
And the social part, you get that fulfilled by at night with going to events or
mhm.
doing a set.
Yeah, exactly. So like just like, yeah, the social aspect of being around people. Yeah, I'm big into the thing. I'm a big believer is one, that yeah, you can't do things alone, but when you are just by yourself, right, you're really limited to the experiences you can have. When you go out, like, you can meet people who, because everyone brings their own story, right?
Yes.
So I just enjoy being around people because of that aspect, because it opens doors for so much possibility. Like we won't be doing this podcast if I and you and I didn't decide
Right.
to go at an event to just see people. So yeah, I think that's the best part of the world. So
What do you do for fun? Other like is that what you do for fun?
no,
What do you do for fun?
so I did make this joke that so I never charge for like comedy,
Uh-huh.
because until like recently, when I've started doing bigger shows where like responsible for like the entire like organization. And for the longest time, the reason I didn't charge for comedy was because I didn't want to tie money to something I enjoy, because once you tie that, it's like, oh, like now I'm back into like working for it than me
Yeah.
enjoying it. So the only thing I do for fun right now is golf. Like I recently
Uh,
picked up golf, and it comes back to the thing again. Like, as much as I enjoy like socializing, going out, doing all these things, sometimes you need to take a step back and take time to reflect. But I find it hard to reflect just by sitting at a place, because there's so much going on in my mind. So golf
ah,
is something where there's minimum amount of activity that I can still be out in nature and still reflect on things, have thoughts, focus on myself. So yeah, golf is I'm something that I've been enjoying.
for fun. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I think I think that's all I got. Do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share?
I think just coming back to the whole like AI journey and just being able to do a lot of other things. I feel like my closing message would be that, again, this is the best time to like try things out
Mm-hmm.
in a way that the risk of failure is so low. Like if I want to start a social media page and it doesn't work out, there's not much impact that's going to happen to me. If I want to start a brand, not only is the consequence of failure so low, but there's so much help. Like I can have all these AIs, not even going to AI. Like there have been so many creators before us who are like willingly sharing their information,
Mm-hmm.
that hey, this is how you should do it, because everything is now open source, everything's available. So I think we should maximize our efforts to, one, try and find that thing, because not everyone knows for the first time that hey, like when I got into poetry, I wasn't sure that poetry is the thing for me.
Right.
So one, try to do more and more things, like experiment
Mm-hmm.
more on what you like and not like, and leverage your friends, leverage AI, leverage like everything's available, because it's the best time to do it. Because I can't imagine a better feeling if I'm someone who does what I love for a living and live my life with it. I don't have to do a mundane job. I don't have to like rely on anything.
Yeah.
That's the people I look up to, like all these like people like Elon Musk. Like I understand he is working, but he's working on the things that he's excited about.
Yeah.
Like
It's
that's a guy.
play. It
Yeah,
sounds right. Would you call what he does like it's work but play mixed together?
like he's not working to pay his bills.
No, he is not.
Yeah, like, so a lot of people who are in the same category as him, not at obviously like not everyone is as successful as him, but
Right.
anyone who is able to live a life doing things that they love, I think that's the best feeling, and we are in the best time that is possible.
Yeah.
Like I understand, like jobs are going out, they are being replaced, but it's a good thing because they are being replaced like from start to end, right? Like it's good that I don't have to cook anymore because I can like order food. It's good I don't have to drive anymore. I have that's taken care of. It's good that so much is being taken care of so that I don't have to like do mundane things in my life, so I can focus on the thing that has the most meaning to me.
Yeah.
So
And I think this is not what you're saying at all. But as someone who hasn't always followed I think more than like, well, in addition to something that I like, it's a purpose and a fulfillment that I
mhm.
follow. And when I'm doing the things that call me, um, it makes me feel high. It makes me feel it's better. It feels better than anything I've ever experienced.
Uh-huh.
Um, when I get to do the things that are like you, I don't know if you've experienced like a nagging of something that you want to do. Like
Uh-huh.
if I'm not doing it, there's a nagging in my
Uh-huh.
mind, and if I don't answer it, I don't feel so great. But if I do it, it's the best feeling. There's this bliss that
Yeah.
I cannot explain, and so that's the I would it's not adding to what you said, but it's like it's kind of if you find that thing, it's already inside of you, right? Like it's already kind of calling you, and you'll have to find out how it manifests itself by trying different things, maybe. But if you do it, I promise, if you find it, it'll feel so good. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
and the way to find it is just trying things,
Trial and
because not
error.
everyone is able to figure it out. Because yeah, not only is like that thing not like fixed, like not everyone knows it, but the world is also changing at a pace where what you're trying to do might not be out there
Right.
yet. Like if I'm someone who likes to talk to people, and like streaming didn't exist like 10 years ago, I might not be able to find it. So yeah, like just keep trying things. And it comes back to the definition of success is that fulfilling your promises. So when you have that nagging feeling, right, and you're
Yeah.
able to do it, that's when you feel successful. You're like, oh, like I did it.
Yeah.
So
It gives you confidence, and then you believe in yourself, and then you do the next thing. And the other thing to that too is even if on the say something's nagging at you, right? It might not be that thing, but on the way to get there or the way pursuing it, you're gonna find other things.
mhm.
Like you didn't just start at comedy; you did storytelling and poetry, right? Or
Yeah.
what? But then you just went to comedy, right? You found it on the way. Is that what?
Yeah, exactly. And what helped me, I think, I think it was the best way to do it is because even when I was doing storytelling and poetry, I was still on stage.
Right,
So it wasn't that
right,
what I'm trying to get to is you don't have to wait for that thing. You
right.
just keep doing, experimenting, because yeah, like my stage experience still added to my comedy, and my
Yeah.
writing experience, because both storytelling and poetry still requires you to write
Mm-hmm.
and then present it. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
still adding to it. It just was like a different medium.
Right.
Same with when people transition, the people that are most successful on social media are the ones who have been doing their craft even despite social media, because they were still perfecting their things
Yeah.
outside social media, and social media just happens to be a medium to expand on it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they had still had to change, but yeah, like you'll notice the people who are the biggest on social media.
Yeah. And really quickly, I promise.
No, no,
But
it's
I
fine.
think this is important. You said like trying stuff, and if it doesn't work out, then you try something else. like if you just start a social media page and it fails, how do
Mhm.
you know when you failed?
Well, again, it's pretty simple, right? Like if I made a promise to myself that I'm gonna post at this frequency, and maybe I'll hit like this level of quality. That's a promise I made to myself, and I'm repeatedly not fulfilling that promise. So it means it failed in a way,
Yeah.
and it's not a bad thing. It might be that while you are failing to do that, you might just realize that maybe this is not exactly what I want to do. Maybe if I switch it to this, that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because you're still gaining experience while you're failing, but the failure is not being able to fulfill your promise, because that's the most hurtful thing. Like if I'm like, hey, like I want to build muscle, lose this much weight, and like go to gym regularly, and I'm not fulfilling that promise, that part where I'm not fulfilling that promise hurts more than everything else.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's failure. And failure in that case just means you have to reevaluate other things. Like if I keep promising myself I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I didn't do it for the 2 weeks, I failed. But it also means that I have to rethink, and maybe like something else works better for me. So
Yeah. You're collecting data, right?
yeah.
You like just reevaluate things. I know when I have failed in the past, I would beat myself up and then think I'm a failure and internalize it.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's the worst approach to not
Hmm.
having an outcome that you had anticipated. I think, yeah, okay, this doesn't, okay, I set out on this journey. This the way I thought I was gonna do it does not work. So let's step back and take another look at it and see
Yeah.
another way to approach it. Because the goal, okay, in the example of weight loss, the goal, I still want to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. That's not going to
Hmm.
work for me. So when would be a good time? Or maybe I work out at home, or maybe just
Hmm.
find a way that you can still reach that goal. Or sometimes it's even reassessing the goal, but it's just not stopping.
Exactly, because I think that's the worst thing. Like if you like give up or stop because there's no progression, or there's no growth out of it, that's the very reason you want to keep trying new things, is
Mm-hmm.
because even if I learned something in like my tech career, or like something in my comedy entertainment career, those skills are transferable. Like me having the ability to go on stage is transferable to me having the ability to like talk in social situations. But if I just give up, yeah, I'm not like growing.
Yeah.
You don't want to ever stop growing, because the funny thing is, the more successful people I meet, the the grander their failures are.
Ah.
Like if you look at, again, I keep coming back to like Elon Musk, but before he had all these successful companies, he's also the one who had bankrupted SpaceX and his other companies, and Tesla was about to go bankrupt, and his SpaceX, his like first three launches blew up, like his rockets blew up. Now he's launching three rockets every week. So he's the, because the bigger the failure you can handle, the bigger the success you'll be able to handle. Because it comes down to the promise, right? Like if I commit that I'll be able to post this many times, like let's say I'm able to promise myself I'll do one time a week, I'll be able to handle, and I commit to that, I'll be able to handle that repetition. But if I fail, I'll also be able to handle the same amount of failure, like the guilt that comes with it. If I commit to like post every day 3 times, right? Anything smaller than that frequency, I'll be able to handle, because I had to like gradually get to that level of promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just look at celebrities and like all these people that you really look up. They have had the biggest fuck ups. Like,
Yeah, it goes back to what you said about these simple advice or simple things. And the simplicity in that is the resilience, right? Like
mhm.
it's a simple. Listen, for me, being resilient has not always been simple. I had a harder time bouncing back from setbacks, but the more you get back up, the easier it is to get back up. Does that make sense? Like the more I had more and more setbacks. At first, they would be harder for me to get back up from, but now I can recover from a setback quicker. Like, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you have to think about like like you can really like feel sad about that setback for a long time, but you have to think about like what I'm trying to do more important than the setback or no. Again, I love Elon Musk. That's why I keep coming back. But
Yeah.
his goal is, one of his goals is to make um, the human species multi-planetary. The simple logic behind that is, if something really bad happens to the Earth, the we'll just like die. Like the species will die off, and that's what happened to like all the previous
Mm-hmm.
like civilizations that existed, maybe like dinosaurs or whatever. They just had a simple flaw that if something went really wrong on the Earth, that there's no escape. So
Right.
that's what he's trying to do. And if one of his rocket fails, he just can't be like, "Yeah, oh man, I'm not gonna do it," because the goal behind that is to make the planet the species multiplanetary.
I forgot how you just said it, but like the outcome, the goal is more important than your setback.
Yeah, exactly.
I love.
Because like I'll give you my like life theory or my like goal. My goal is in life to be able to come up with and build creative products. Like I'm a creative person, I just really want to build, yeah, creative products and put it out there. I've done it through the current companies I work with, current startups I'm supporting, but I also want to build a clothing line that has integrated displays in them. So you can like wear your favorite like picture, you can like showcase your maybe social media posts, but it'll be like hoodies, t-shirts, caps that will have like screens within the fabric,
Mm-hmm.
because it adds a new dimension to fashion. So I really thought about that idea and I'm pursuing that right now.
Yeah.
The goal with that is, yeah, to be able to bring those ideas to life. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But if I tie it to like money, if I tie it to like particular sales, if I tie it to like other things, I'll probably fail at the first try, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I want to keep going even despite all these setbacks, like I've heard so many no's that's not going to work, is because, yeah, like the goal behind it is to bring creative ideas to life. That's what I want to do. Maybe do it with my consulting side of things. That's what I do with my comedy. Like I'll have so many like jokes on like funny ideas that are might not be possible, but I'll just like try and experiment it out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You said something really interesting when I asked you to be on the show. Because because you said you were back in school, and I was shocked because it seems like,
Uh,
most people that we're in these the artistic networking is, we want to be entertainers on the grand level, most of them. And I asked you about going on tour for comedy. Would you give up the engineering?
mhm.
And you said no. That, like, that's not your ultimate goal. And
Uh-huh.
I threw these crazy numbers at him, financial, like monetary, and you were like, no, that's not what I that's not what I ultimately want. And I was so fascinated. I love that, and that's what the show. That's what I want the show to expose. And that's not the right word, but um, success, in my opinion, it's everyone's definition, but it's not about money, right? Say you had all the money in the world, how would you spend your days? And it sounds like what you would do with your days. And I think that is the definition. I mean, that's just how I think about it. It's not right or wrong, but that's how I think about success. No matter that was why we started. That I used to do the show with the co-host. That's why we started the show,
Mhm.
because it's in our culture. It's like everyone's obsessed with money, and that's fine. I'm not saying we need money, right?
Mhm.
But say you had all this money that you're pursuing, then what does your day look like? What makes you feel fulfilled? And that's a
Mhm.
different conversation. And that's what I hope to do with the show, is to challenge those ideas of success. And you were a perfect example of like, that's not the most important thing to me. That's the how I spend my days and what I do and my goals are the most important thing.
Yeah, because I think who you are as a person is easier to sustain than something like something that what the society think, in the sense like I can get an opportunity to go on tour, and I might be able to do fine, but I won't be able to sustain it just because I'm not the same person who how do I put it? Like if when I'm doing comedy, right? If a joke is not coming from within me,
Yeah.
who I'm as a person, it doesn't hit. Like that's the very reason comedians don't really copy jokes, because it doesn't work. Like if I joke about something that's not truly me, it doesn't hit. People know it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more important to find the intent that's coming within you to do those things actually in the world,
Yeah.
than to just like chase after like opportunities, because you won't be able to sustain it, right? That's what I'm coming at. Like if what you're doing doesn't match who you are internally, you won't be able to sustain it for a long time.
Yeah. That's so true. And I don't know if this is what you mean, but when you are going after your thing, for me, I could say it gives me energy.
Hmm.
You feel energized, and that's you can't fake that.
Yeah, because I think it, when what you're doing resonates with what you are, it reflects in the sense that that's why people who are in like sales and marketing, they are annoying, because they are trying to like trick you into it, and you are
Mm-hmm.
able to tell that, right? Like no
Right.
matter how many hours they have spent, how good they are, like you're able to sense it. Because yeah, same with like when I'm on stage, if I say something that's not really resounding with who I am, even though it might be the first time someone saw me on stage and I've
Mm-hmm.
practiced that for so long, like that's why even when you look at speakers, even like politicians, they have 10,000 hours on stage, but you can somehow still tell the intent and the things even if you see them the first time. So
Yeah.
you really have to resonate it, because you won't be able to sustain it long term, because you can like put this mask up, but you can't like keep defending it, because you internally can't do it either. You can't promise yourself to keep doing something that you are not really. So
No, you cannot. It will eat. I tried it, and
yeah.
it will eat away at your soul. And that's when I told you when I wasn't doing my thing, nagging voice. That I mean that nagging constantly
Uh-huh.
when you're not doing. I don't want to say supposed to do, but called to do or whatever. That the the most authentic version of yourself you want to do. Um,
And I feel like that's a privilege in itself. Like if someone has a calling, it's pretty like spectacular, in the sense like you have something to work toward, you have that drive, right?
mhm,
Because yeah, like I think uh, it sometimes with myself, like I don't really have to do like all these creative pursuits. Like I have a stable job, I can
right.
just like sit at home, like watch TV all day.
Yeah.
So it in itself is a privilege to have that drive. Because again, what blows my mind is you know how there are all these like big like singers, actors, who have been in the industry for years and years, right?
Uh huh.
And you would think that just looking at those people, there'll be a whole lot of people who are trying to come and replace them.
Mhm.
Obviously, like when you look at like singers like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, isn't it amazing that they have been still being at the top of their game for like 30 years, given how much competition they have?
Right.
But the reason behind that is just how much drive they have.
Mm.
Like they don't have to keep singing as
Right.
they don't,
They
right?
don't. They don't.
Like none of them.
That's
But
true.
they are not just continuing to do that, but they're still at the forefront of that, despite all these years. Because you would imagine how many new singers would come, how many.
Right.
They don't have to do it. Like
That's
once you hit
true.
at a point, they don't have, like, what's the reason?
Yeah. It's
It's
because
the drive,
they
and
yeah, they it's because they love to do it.
yeah, and they have the calling to do it.
Yeah.
So again, it's a blessing, because again, coming back to Elon Musk, he doesn't have to. He's a billionaire. Like he doesn't have to help other people go to Mars. He's the reason I'm so inspired by him is because his calling and his goal is beyond himself. He
Uh-huh.
himself will never be alive long enough to be able to go to Mars himself, but he's
Right.
thinking about a generation, probably 500 years, 1,000 years from now. Like we are not going to go extinct in the next 100 years. No.
Yeah.
So you know how big that is and selfless that is. Like if someone wrongs me, I'm like, I'm not talking to that person again, because there's all sorts of people in the world, right? And he's
Mhm.
thinking about someone, like the whole species. You know how the like level selfless that is.
Yeah.
Like I understand, like I'm comfortable now, I'll do charity for this group, and I'm only going to do charity for this group because I don't like this group. So
Right.
he's like selfless on the in the whole different level. So
I need to think about that. Yeah.
Because when your goal is that big, right, like you'll find people who will support it. Like if your goal is only, I'll give you a pretty short example. I, again, not a lot of things like really like bother me that much, but recently someone like I get all these messages to like promote things, stuff like that. And if I resonate with people, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Like when you asked me for the podcast, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But someone randomly asked me to like their post, and I'm like, wouldn't there be more value if you would just have told me that, hey, like I posted this, can you read it?
Ah,
Because if you're confident in the value you're providing, a like wouldn't even matter. Like it's not about
right.
the numbers or this, you know how that is limiting the belief on like uh number of likes, or like attaching it to something that's like superficial, instead of being like, hey, look at this might be value to you. Because even internally it would have taken me the same effort to like it and actually gain some value out of it. So
Yeah.
like try and like have your reasoning and purpose bigger than just these things. Because something also we don't realize is when you look at people like, example, like again Beyonce, Taylor Swift, if they were only chasing like one successful song, they would have been done so long ago.
Yeah.
Like they have had like downturns, upturns, because their calling is way bigger than that. That's what
Right.
keeps it going. So if you can find that, like for me it's like, yeah, bringing creative products and ideas to life, that's my calling.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I have an unsuccessful product, it's fine. Like I'll still keep going.
Yeah, and then what you said too of it's about bringing value. When I
uh,
read about even marketing, it can be that can be a sleazy business, right? But they focus on you focus on telling the person what they're going to get versus what you're
yeah.
going to get.
Uh-huh.
And to this is a side note, but you know who Gary Vee is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He said in one of his interviews or whatever, they asked him like, "What if your daughter didn't get any likes on a poster or whatever?" He's like, "I tell her shit's not good." Like, if it's good and you keep doing it, it'll get to where it needs to go. But if it's not good, you got to try something else. Like, but don't. But like, kind of to what you're saying, like you can't force people to like your stuff if it's not resonating, it's not resonating.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And Gary Vee is a more relevant example in like what we do, because he's been through so many like generations in a sense of like
yeah,
social media.
yeah,
And the reason he's still around, given you would think there'll be better people who were our generation who understand Instagram better than Gary Vee, but he's a workhorse because he keeps like putting that's a pretty good example in our case. Like he's like, oh, this platform is here, let me try this. Like he even did a pretty successful, one of the most successful NFT projects. He literally would drew like random pictures on like cards, sold them as NFTs.
okay,
And it wasn't just a picture. Every NFT that he sold had a utility behind. So there was one NFT that if you buy it, you would get an hour call with him.
wow,
So he really leveraged it. He tried it.
yeah,
And he didn't marry himself to that idea that NFT is everything.
right,
When the trend of NFTs went down, he moved to the next platform. So because his purpose is education in a way, right?
mm-hmm.
He called it edutainment, or like something like education with entertainment.
Yeah,
That's his purpose. So no matter what the medium is, and he can post something on YouTube, I would consume him not by looking at his likes, but what the value he's bringing, because that ultimately triumphs.
right.
Because not the most liked content on social media is the most valuable anyhow.
That's true.
Like I hardly like things, but I'll still consume things that I like. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
but yeah, Gary Vee is a pretty good example. Like I'm impressed by, like, you would think he would be irrelevant because he's from a previous generation. How is he still
yeah,
relevant? Because
yeah,
his purpose is bigger than just being, his promise to himself is not like I need a million followers on Instagram. His promise is like I want to affect and provide value to as many people in an entertaining way as possible. So
yeah, yeah. And I like his this is not important, but I love his I like no nonsense kind of. I don't like fluff. And so he's very like I'm just giving you the information straight up. Like I'm not I mean I know he has his style and that's a choice, but I like the choice that he makes.
the reason I really look up to these people is because they are long term vision.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gets really hard for us to like understand and have a vision long term, because everyone wants to get rich within a year, within 6 months. Like that's
Yeah.
the target. But again and again and again, these people keep saying that think long term. Like what's 10 years? What's like 5, 10 years?
Yeah.
Because you can get a setback today and you have to bounce back because the vision is bigger than just 1 year. Because the thing is the thing setbacks sometimes are so serious is because I'll have this grand plan of things to achieve in a week. And when I have a 2 day setback, that means I already lost 20% of the time. So I
Uh-huh.
give up those 5 days because I'm like, I already am behind all this.
Uh-huh.
But if I already am like, oh, like this is my 5 year goal, if I have 2, 3 days of setback, it's fine. Does that make sense? Like if I
Yeah.
promise myself that today I'll do this, I don't do the first 2 hours. I'm like, oh shit, I only have 10 hours left. Let me just sack it off. So
Right.
because I heard, again, it's the simplest advice, that's the most like true. So yeah, you'll hear Gary again. It's the reason these guys have been on top of their game for like 20, 30 years. It's nuts. No, I'm pretty sure even I don't think about 20 years from now.
No.
No, right?
No. I
It's
think about 10, but that's it.
I don't even think about 10. I'm usually like uh, I have 5 months left in the year. Right?
No, that's good. That's good.
So again, that's a piece of advice I'm working on as well. So
Yeah. Well, I think we did it with our guest star, the Nets. They didn't
yeah.
bother you, but they bother me. Is there any? So you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
Anything
for sure.
else?
This was my first podcast, so yeah,
Yay!
that's pretty good. Like I'm someone who's up to like try things. Even when I was in this room, like trying the script reading, that was my
Mm-hmm.
first one ever. So
Yeah.
now it gives me a good experience on like yeah, like how to
Would
record.
Would you do another one?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you be in a movie or a show?
I'm not sure yet. Like I don't have. I've been asked to do like a movie, but whenever that opportunity happens, that's not a goal I'm like actively seeking. But
Right.
like that's something I'll do just because yeah, it helps me uh, be better at other things in the sense like now that I've done a podcast, I know like if I want to sit down and talk for a long time to like market one of my products or do something,
Yeah.
I'll know how to do it. So yeah, it's
Makes sense.
you have to keep trying new things while also like fulfilling your promises. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I'll close this out. Thank you, Jashan Kaleka, for sharing your time with me and
Mm-hmm.
inspiring listeners to redefine success for themselves. You
Mm-hmm.
can find out more about Jashan on.
You guys can follow me on Instagram. It's Jashan __ Kaleka, as well as on TikTok and YouTube.
And that will be. Oh, you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I don't really post much, but yeah,
I didn't know
I'm
that.
willing to. I think that's one of the goals is this year to like my big 2025 goal is to start a series called one project a week. So I'm like really like accumulating a bunch of projects that I'll like launch one project a week. So it's like a app idea or product idea, something like that.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
that's something I'm working towards. So
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes, at least the Instagram and TikTok, and
yeah,
I'll see if I can find YouTube.
okay.
And thank you. What did you say?
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
It's there? Okay.
I'll send everything to you.
Okay.
So yeah.
So check the show notes. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Again, I ask that you subscribe to the U Plus Happy YouTube channel. It's very helpful. If you like this episode, like it, share it, help the channel grow. And you can also follow the show on Instagram, where I post clips of the show at U Plus Happy. And I asked the guests to say the tagline, which is we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Oh wow! So I have to do
It's
the
long, right?
yeah.
Want to say it again?
Yeah. So we'll show you.
We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
All right, guys. We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Yes, did it.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much.